And you're welcome to the 12 Report. I am Judith, a TB, standing in for Blessings Musugo. As always, the headlines. Nigeria insecurity woes continue as bandits reportedly kidnap students and staff from Catholic school in Niger State. Reaction trails Kanu's sentencing as IPOB leaders' kinsmen express sadness over outcome. And preparations are in top gear as world leaders converge on Johannesburg for G20 summit. As always, we have our reporters stationed in different parts of the country as well as beyond. Joshua Marai is in the capital, Abuja. We have Moina Balagbogbo, who is in Kogi State, and Israel Iforobo joins us live from South Africa. We've got the details in a moment. Join us. And we begin with a rather sad one where bandits have abducted an unspecified number of students and staff from St. Mary's School in Papiri, located in Gwara local government area of Niger State. Confirming the incident in a telephone interview, the head of disaster and relief for Gwara local government area, Ahmed Abdullahi Rofai, revealed that the attackers invaded the school in the early hours of the morning between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. He noted that the exact number of abducted students and staff is yet to be determined as authorities continue to assess the situation. The latest abduction comes just days after a similar attack in Maga, Kebbi State, where gunmen kidnapped 25 students from another school, raising fresh concerns over the worsening insecurity across educational institutions in the region. In the meantime, the Niger State government has strongly condemned the abduction of pupils from St. Mary's School in the Papiri area, calling the incident deeply saddening and avoidable. Despite a prior security directive ordering the closure of boarding schools in the region due to elevated threats, St. Mary's School reopened without notifying or obtaining clearance from its government, exposing students and staff to danger. Security forces, including police and military units, have launched extensive search and rescue operations, combing the surrounding forest to locate and safely rescue the kidnapped pupils. The state government called on school owners, community leaders, and citizens to strictly adhere to security advisories to protect lives, especially those of children. It urged the public to remain calm and support ongoing security efforts. Still on security, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has directed the Minister of State for Defense, Alhaji Bello Matawale, to immediately relocate to Kebbi State, where 24 schoolgirls abducted earlier this week remain missing. The order follows growing public pressure and international tension after former U.S. President Donald Trump accused Nigeria of failing to protect Christians. I'll take that again. That's the U.S. President Donald Trump accused Nigeria of failing to protect Christians. Claims that the government firmly rejects. Now, a presidency statement says Matawale brings key experience to the mission, having overseen the release of 279 kidnapped students in Zamfara State in 2021. Meanwhile, in the east, Kwara State has shut several schools after a deadly attack on a local church on Tuesday, heightening security concerns across the country. Meanwhile, bandits who abducted about 35 worshippers from the Christ Apostolic Church in Oke Igiri Uruku in Ekiti local government area of Kwara State have demanded a ransom of 100 million naira per victim, according to family members and community leaders. Relatives say the kidnappers have begun calling them using the victims' phones and have reportedly grouped the abductees, with the first group of 11 each asked to pay 100 million naira. Community leader, and that's Chief Olusegun Olukuton, who escaped the attack but has 4 family members still in captivity, confirmed the ransom demand. Meanwhile, the Owa of Eruku, Oba Busari Olarewaju, is appealing for urgent government intervention, despite welcoming the swift military deployment ordered after the governor's visit. The Kwara State Police Command has debunked a viral video circulating on social media claiming that bandits who attacked worshippers at the Christ Apostolic Church in Iruku have been arrested. The 2-minute clip shared widely on WhatsApp and Facebook alleged that security operatives had rounded up the attackers in less than 48 hours after the deadly raid. But police spokesperson SP Adeton Ejiri Adeyemi says that the claim is completely false, stressing that no arrests have been made as security agencies continue intensified operations to rescue the abducted victims. And now to discuss this further, we're joined by a security and cyber expert, and that's Edgar Augustine. He joins us virtually. Mr. Augustine, many thanks for joining us. I appreciate you for coming on. I mean, what are the underlying factors that are driving these abductions? We're seeing, we've seen 2, there's now Niger, and there's also Kebbi as well. 100 million naira ransom is now being demanded to top all of that. What's going on?
Well, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be with you this afternoon. I hope I'm clear.
Absolutely. You're loud and clear. Please continue.
All right. So we will not rule out that these elements, they have always had their cells in all those places they're attacking from. They have their formations in every area that they're attacking randomly. So they have always maintained their presence in those areas. But it has always been something of a coordinated attack in the past. But after tension, the statement that brought tension by US President over their military intervention in Nigeria, I think it has really raised a lot of increased attacks. And it becomes something like it's random. I think from what I see now, they are trying to do a self-funding, because you can see what they're demanding from is very random, and they are very out to make money, and that is like getting funding, so that they are also preparing their grounds to start. If they use, they are mopping up funds from every angle they can fund their operations. I don't think they are resolute. They don't seem to be people who want to really give out and run away or cheat out. They really want to get all the money they can get back, get and then stand and do the fighting. And it is like they already have a fragile system. I understand that the system cannot resist them. We don't have, currently there is no system, there is no architecture that can really prevent them from doing what they're doing, and that's why they're getting away with it.
Right, as we're talking about architecture, let's just take a look at the current military and police joint operations that are tasked with rescuing abducted victims and deterring future attacks. How effective have they been in the last 6 months?
Well, I will always give credit to the military. The Nigerian military are very hardworking. They're really doing their best, because they have been doing it. They have been doing everything that they can to ensure that they do their best, even with the resource that they have. But this is just beyond military. You cannot handle this kind of terror, this asymmetric warfare by the military effort alone. It is a collective effort from every angle to monitor the environment and see that other elements, other architecture is being implemented. Military alone cannot handle it. That is the truth about it. That's why it's coming year after year. Because we are all looking up to the military and the federal government. They are overstretched. From what the chief of staff said, he said last year they recruited 10,000. And this year they can't find anybody. They don't have enough to continue with this battle. And the whole nation is expecting the military to get the ground soldiers. That's another issue of concern for us.
Now, as we're looking, let's widen the scope, right? The broader implications of social, political, and economic conditions. What are those factors that are contributing to the persistent banditry and targeted violence that we're seeing in these regions?
Well, we cannot rule out. Let me tell you, this separatist ideology is very strong, because it is fundamental on some issues. Those who are calling the shots, they understand what they are fighting for. But the people who are being used as the instruments, they look at it as a religion. the thing. It's about political and economic dominance within the single state. That is what they're fighting. So we see if it is something that don't favor a section of people. We saw this during former President Jonathan's case. When something don't favor certain section, then they resort to violence. These are principles. These are founding principles on terrorism or separatist ideologies. When something don't favor a group of people, they break out from the society of their own norms. That is what you're seeing here. So that is just what is happening here in Nigeria. The politicians, some of them understand what is going on. From the local to the federal, they understand. The people that are using to fight these battles, some don't really understand. They just use the issue of religion. And they go. I know religion is very strong. It's a strong case.
Right. You taught them as separatists, right? But from what we've seen, there are kidnaps, abductions, and demands of ransom. So why call them separatists? What ideals have they should? They haven't said that, the reasons for this attacks is they're trying to separate the nation. So why separatists?
They're not going to say that. They are not going to say that clearly. But what they are doing is funding. Because you can see right from when the U.S. president came on board, there have been a lot of the aids that they used to receive. I'm sure there's a serious monitoring, especially now that Nigeria has been designated as a country of a particular percent. There is actually a lot of monitoring from outside, funding and everything that is moving from all the units. So what they are doing now, no matter the formation you see, whether you call them bandits, whether you call them headsmen, whatever name that you call it, they are the same branches from a big tree. They are the same people. What they are doing now is that if they can't get the funding through the way they used to get, of course the government is tight a bit, they will find another way. What you see now, this random and ransom, is funding. They get it through drugs, hard drugs, pushing of hard drugs. All of these things are part of their way of funding. So the funding is a bit difficult for them from where they used to receive it. That is why you're seeing all these random kidnapping and abductions.
All right. And lastly, just before I let you go, let's talk about, the national security strategy itself. Can the country adjust that, to simultaneously address, the kidnapping, insurgency, and also communal violence that we're seeing? What can they do with the strategy to tailor to the trends?
You see, we have always been talking to our country, but it's like a country that knows what to do and they refuse to do it because they politicize everything. State policing is something that would have helped to caution all these effects if they have started it, if they have accepted it from time, because every state governor will be held accountable for his own security. But now everything, they blame it on the federal government. And federal government, you can see the president, he doesn't know what to do right now. You see, but if it's a state, they have agreed to this state policing for so many years, we have been campaigning for it. Every state will have their own structure because every statement, every state government, they understand they have their own peculiar security challenges, their own psychology. They understand the terrain. So if you give them that little autonomy on their own to manage their security, then you have the federal guards. That is the federal security, so that if there is so much difficulty over here in the state, they will come and help them out. But now everything is dependent on federal government, and federal government, they are overstretched, but they can't say it. The military is overstretched on this. So state policing still seems one of the best things that can happen. With state police, they can activate other little paramilitary that will run for intelligence sharing. This is how you manage security. But now it's like everything is federal government, police federal government, military federal government, and it's very easy to compromise on the system. So the way we are now, I can tell you the truth that we need external hands. We need external hands to help this because the system now is not something that will really work for us. We need an external hand. You can't win the war of terrorism only internally. You can't win it. Even the external people abroad, they will not even trust what you're doing. It took a whole effort from other nations to go and help Syria, help Iraq, all of those nations. So it's something that we need some advanced methods. We need some advanced thinking to help us deal with this. Apart from other economic challenges that we see within our system. So all of it will work together.
All right. I must say thank you, Mr. Edgar Augustine, for taking out time to join us this afternoon to give us your insight. Mr. Augustine is a security analyst giving us an insight following the attacks and the abductions of schoolgirls we've seen in Niger and Kebbi as well. You're watching the 12 Report here on News Central Television. Let's go on a short break. When we return, details of more stories. Stay with us. Welcome back. And now it's off to electoral matters. For more than 2 decades, 12 state constituencies in our Kogi state have remained suppressed, effectively silencing thousands of voters and shrinking the State House of Assembly from 32 seats to 25. On Thursday, lawmakers and concerned citizens stormed the INEC office in Lokoja with a fresh petition giving the Electoral Commission an ultimatum to restore these constituencies before the 2027 elections. News Central's Moina Balabubu is standing by live outside the INEC state headquarters in Lokoja, the capital, where the petition was submitted. Moina, thanks for joining us. I gotta ask, have the officials, the INEC officials, acknowledged their grievances, and what's the timeline for their response?
Good afternoon, Tuesday. Now, of course, I'm standing live at the INEC office here in Lokoja, and my conversations with officials who have refused to appear on camera is the fact that those petitions have been received. In other words, the state INEC office here recognizing some of the issues that have been raised, because Kogi State is just one of the many states that is affected. Initially, Kogi had 32, and now it stands at 25. And some of these lawmakers, even last week at the National Assembly, the state House of the State Assembly in Kogi State pushed motions to ensure that INEC, does the needful. But of course, officials who refused to comment openly, I tried to press further, and they were like, this is something that has to do with the office in Abuja. There is nothing that the INEC office here can do. That they had even informed some of the petitioners before they came yesterday that this is something that was going to take a while. So from INEC officials here, they seem to be shocked that some of the stakeholders who came here yesterday, despite knowing the full details that this is not something that is within their capacity, but more of the national INEC office to be able to deal with. So this is something that they expressed to me, but of course they don't want to disclose their names. It's just my own, pressing on them to really tell me something and give me information. So this is a very important issue. If you notice, the lawmaker in Kogi State who raised this issue is from Kababo, the local government area. As one of the stakeholders yesterday, the man in the middle, as you can see on your screen, that is the Kababo local government chairman. He's also a lawyer, and another lawyer. They were the ones who were here yesterday to file this petition, and they are calling for INEC to do the needful. But when you go over this issue, Judith, you will discover that INEC, seems to be, boxed in because of politics and also the need for review from the National Assembly that will actually give them the enablement to do this. And from what the INEC officials told me here in Kogi State, they said they can't just do that of Kogi State only. So if they are going to restore some of these constituencies that have been suppressed, it's going to be at a national level. So this is going to take time. I also tried to press the INEC official. He told me that he can't say for now because I guess these agitations is building up towards the 2027 elections, and they really want to ensure representations for persons in these constituencies.
Mona, I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us and give us that insight. Mona Bolawu, our correspondent from Lokoja, just at the INEC office at the capital of Kogi State. Let's switch gears away from that and now to the capital, Abuja, where kinsmen and relatives of Nnamdi Kanu have expressed sadness over his sentencing. An Abuja High Court on Thursday convicted the leader of the banned Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, and sentenced him to life imprisonment over terrorism charges. News Center's Chimogili visited his country home in Isiama, Afaraoku, in Umaya North local government area of Abia State. Take a look.
officers of the Department of State Services and other security operatives. Security was tight, movement restricted, and anticipation high as a corporate. Some of his processes before the court.
My lord, I am the defendant.
The situation soon escalated as Kanu visibly.
Judgment is certainly not. The court judgment is certainly not a welcome development in Isama Faruku community, given the unusual quiet and reluctance of the people to speak about it. His country home, which has now become a worship center for Judaism religion, is even quieter with no one in sight to react. Not even the policemen that surrounded the area earlier are in sight anymore. Some elders of the community sit helplessly at the village square, apparently too pained to speak on camera.
Because you might be in problem.
You know that.
Because Mama will go here. You might be in problem. Of the continuation of the Hanging and the war. That is the continuation. So they feel that Nanya they are suffering enough that will rise up very early. So they are still suppressing.
Some who eventually speak are philosophical.
They are not happy. So let them do what they want to do. Do the will of God to do that. There's no problem. That's the will of God.
Others still wonder what offense he committed to earn such sentencing.
It doesn't stop the agitation, it doesn't stop the fear, it doesn't stop the actualization of our mind. What must be, must be. So we're not scared of them.
The banditry are making a free. Somebody who are just agitated with month has been sentenced, either life imprisonment or whatever they might call it. But it's a very conclusive.
How can we be happy? Someone who's agitating for his own freedom, when you are forcing him to do whatever he wants to do. So that's no way it can happen.
Although Nnamdi Kanu has been sentenced today for terrorism offenses, his followers and kinsmen insist he is a freedom fighter who has just been shut up with the judgment. In Omahia for News Central, Chinwe Ugeli.
Many thanks to Chinwe for that report. Now joining us is our correspondent Joshua Marai, who is live in Abuja for more updates on the judgment. Joshua, I mean, we've seen all that's happened between yesterday and today, but yesterday was a long process in just delivering the judgment, and almost all major television stations carried it. And I do have to ask, what's the reaction following that verdict, especially coming off of it from yesterday? How's the city of the capital taking it?
I am live at the Federal Secretariat here in Abuja, one of the major places of activities for residents alike, civil servants, and the likes. But what we are experiencing here at the capital,
we seem to have lost Joshua Marai, our correspondent there in Abuja, but we'll bring you that live update. In the meantime, let's go back to issues that are bordering on insecurity, shall we? As the Bishop Wilfred Anagbe of the Catholic Diocese in Makurdi testified before the U.S. House Subcommittee on Africa, warning that Christianity risks extinction in parts of Nigeria's North and Middle Belt. He highlighted severe challenges facing Nigerian Christians, including persistent killings, large-scale displacement, and targeted violence happening without accountability. At the same time, U.S. Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs criticized President Donald Trump's threat of unilateral military intervention in Nigeria over claims of Christian genocide, labeling the approach as reckless and potentially escalating insecurity for already vulnerable communities.
To have the privilege of witnessing, the privilege of experiencing. I'm not talking as a privilege of opinion. Mr. Chairman, ranking members, distinguished members of the subcommittee, thank you for inviting me back to testify on the escalating crisis of Christian persecution and genocide in Nigeria. 6 months ago, precisely on 13th March 2025, when I last appeared before this committee, I warned that the situation was there and demanded urgent attention. Tragically, the past half year has proven those warnings understated the continued attack on vulnerable Christian villages by the Fulani ethnic militia and their counterparts, both in the middle belt of Nigeria and elsewhere in the country. Since my testimony in March 2025, credible reports from organizations monitoring religious freedom, including Open Doors and our own Justice, Development and Peace Commission in Makurdi Diocese, have documented continuing attack on Christian villages, especially in the middle belt states of Benue and Plateau, perpetrated by the Fulani militia.
Nigeria's Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Waid Shuaibu, has called on journalists to remain professional and ethical in the reporting of military activities with a focus on national security, integration and cohesion. General Shuaibu made this known during the Army's 2025 fourth quarter media chat with the theme, The Nigerian Security Environment, Role of Strategic Communication in Strengthening Civil-Military Relations. It was held in Jos, the Plateau State capital. Our correspondent Chizoba Anyonwe was there for News Central and now reports. Take a look.
These media and security stakeholders are gathered here to brainstorm on issues that will improve civil-military relations between the men of the pen and those of the boot. The theme of this gathering, the Nigerian security environment, role of strategic communication in strengthening civil-military relations, is aimed at strategic communication, which the Army says is crucial to national security, stamping out chaos arising from unethical reporting. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Waidi Shaibu, who was represented at the event, says the synergy between the Army and the media will aid in curbing various misrepresentations that abound in the media space, giving room for a safer society.
Additionally, malicious acts such as disclosure of classified information and weaponization of narratives by dissidents in the media space pose serious threats to national security. This has necessitated a collaboration between the Nigerian Army and media stakeholders to foster a formidable front against our shared security challenges.
It is therefore imperative that media stakeholders uphold credible and ethical reporting while mitigating sensationalism, disinformation, and misinformation that can erode public trust.
Facilitators for this strategic meeting are unwavering in their submissions as they maintain that the event will bridge the gap between journalists and the Nigerian Army.
Strengthening this relationship remains paramount for national stability, public trust, and deepening our enduring democracy.
We used to say that communication is the oxygen of terrorists. Without communication, terrorists or insurgents, they cannot operate. So we should be mindful of the way we craft our information and communication.
For many here in attendance, they say the need for a stronger relationship between the military and the media cannot be overemphasized.
Our desire as journalists is to see that we have a common platform with the military, away from covering their activities, away from our personal relationships with them.
A lot of the times, we have a lot of the solutions or have a lot of recommendations and all of that, but how much of this is implemented is the question.
With a foundation now set for effective media-military relation, many believe that if attention is given to the issues raised here, results will begin to manifest in the shortest possible time. In Plateau State for News Central, Chizoba Anyonwe.
Nigeria's electoral framework is once again under the spotlight as lawmakers, electoral experts and key stakeholders convene on Abuja to review the nation's Electoral Act 2022 ahead of the proposed electoral bill of 2025. Our correspondent Blessing Akigbe compiled this report. Take a look.
It was a one-day retreat for lawmakers and electoral stakeholders aimed at reviewing the Electoral Act 2022 ahead of the proposed Electoral Bill 2025. The session was opened with a call on all present to strengthen Nigeria's electoral system, eliminate ambiguities in the law, and ensure a framework that protects transparency and public trust.
Today, as we gather for this one-day retreat, our task is clear: to examine each section and subsection of the Electoral Bill 2025 closely and constructively. It is our duty to ensure that the bill not only addresses the present challenges faced in our electoral system, but anticipates future needs and emerging trends in the political landscape.
This is a part of the constitution that Nigerians are expecting, because they believe good governance starts with good elections, and good elections start with good electoral act. And that's why we all have to put hands on deck to ensure that we get this done.
Stakeholders present say key proposals like early voting and inmate voting were revisited, but ultimately dropped over feasibility concerns. They also considered a new proposal targeting the buying and selling of voter cards.
There was also a proposal on prison inmates having the right to vote. That proposal too, we felt was going to be too problematic and may complicate rather than solve problems.
There were issues related to Section 22, offenses of buying and selling voters' card, and a new proposal for was made respecting this, and the committee decided that the provision as is should be retained and the penalty as is be retained, which is 500,000 naira or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 5 years.
Stakeholders say the retreat is expected to birth a more realistic, clearer, and more credible electoral framework aimed at supporting the conduct of free, fair, and transparent polls.
The House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee investigating failures in pre-shipment inspection and the non-remittance of crude oil proceeds has pledged to end massive revenue losses plaguing Nigeria's export sector. The committee made the pledge at a capacity-building workshop in Abuja aimed at strengthening legislative oversight of the nation's oil and non-oil export sector.
The chairman of the committee, Sheyi Shoumi, says Nigeria has continued to lose billions of dollars due to violations in pre-shipment regulations, funds he described as the equivalent of hospitals, schools, and key infrastructure denied to citizens.
These leakages represent not just figures, but also hundreds of laws, hospitals, schools, critical infrastructure, and most painfully, loss of opportunity for our people. Because of the growing evidence of the revenue losses and non-compliance with pre-shipment inspection and export laws, the House of Representatives established this ad hoc committee to investigate the systemic failures in pre-shipment inspection and revenue repatriation of both crude oil and non-oil exports.
Shoumi emphasized that the probe is a national mission focused on closing loopholes, recovering lost value, and rebuilding confidence in the country's economic governance.
This is not a witch hunt. It is a national mission to recover value, close loopholes, and reinforce confidence in Nigeria's economic governance.
According to representatives, the results of this probe will set a new benchmark for transparency and economic governance.
The United Nations Children Education Fund, UNICEF, has called for stronger investment, sustained partnerships, and greater urgency to accelerate progress for children's well-being. Now, this was as UNICEF Nigeria joined the rest of the world to mark the World Children's Day 2025 in Abuja. UNICEF also launched its Nigeria Child Report 2025 to help address major challenges affecting children. Correspondent Blessing Aigbe was there. Here's a report.
All these dreams being realistic.
It was all about children as UNICEF
Government officials, diplomats, and hundreds of young people came together to mark the World Children's Day. Stakeholders say investing in children is not just a moral commitment, but a strategic one, because Nigeria's future depends on the well-being of its youngest citizens.
Really a day about celebration of the rights of the children. Today we mark the Convention on the Rights of the Children. This is the most widely ratified treaty in history. It's a global commitment by the world, by the member state for children, to empower children, to nurture children, to protect children. So I think this is something very critical. It is also a day to celebrate children's dreams, resilience, hope, agency. So
the world should unite against any bully who will threaten a child anywhere on this earth, because children represent our future, and investing in them, as is being discussed today, is the wisest thing to do.
At the heart of the event was the new Nigeria Child Report 2025 to address major deprivations from health to education and protection.
Today, I know UNICEF is launching the Nigeria Child Report 2025. The report tells us that 2 out of every 3 children live in multi-dimensional poverty. Millions of children lack basic education. Millions of them lack basic nutrition, health care, safe school, and protective home. More than half experience violence.
as such, this is really a call for action. That yes, let's celebrate the progress, but we all need to come together to invest more in children. Investment in children is investment in peace, in productivity, in national progress.
As the event ends, UNICEF is calling for stronger investment, sustained partnerships, and greater urgency to accelerate progress for children's well-being.
Now for some business. The President Bola Tinubu, says Nigeria's aviation industry remains one of Africa's most viable yet underexploited markets as the sector enters a new phase marked by rising passenger demand and ongoing reforms. From airport expansion to maintenance facilities and new regional routes, fresh opportunities are opening up for investors. News Central's business correspondent Chamon Dabeng has more.
Nigeria's aviation sector is undergoing steady transformation as the government intensifies infrastructure upgrades, strengthens regulatory oversight, and pushes for improved service delivery. With domestic and international travel rebounding, investors are taking a closer look at opportunities across airports, airlines, logistics, and maintenance services. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu also spoke on the proposed Lekki-Epe International Airport, saying the project has received all necessary approvals and is now awaiting funding.
Lekki-Epe International Airport is not just a vanity project. It's a strategic response to 4 pressing reality. We hope that we can help decongest the Murtala Mohammed International Airport. We want to also help building a resilient MMA that has served Nigeria with distinctions for decades. But one airport cannot and should not carry the full weight of our national and regional aviation opportunity.
Nigeria's aviation industry has long been regarded as a challenging but high potential market, serving over 15 million passengers annually and acting as a key gateway for business and tourism. But renewed investor interest is being driven by ongoing airport rehabilitation, stronger regulatory frameworks, and growing demand for regional connectivity.
Within the continent of Africa, air transport bridges distance, promotes trade, tourism, enhances territorial security, supports food security, humanitarian services, maintenance of peace, and fosters unity. Therefore, every runway built, every terminal modernized, and every policy reform implemented contributes directly to regional, sub-regional, and national progress.
Current investment targets critical growth areas including modern terminals, cargo processing maintenance, repair and overhaul facilities, and digital ticketing systems. Industry stakeholders say these improvements will reduce operating costs, strengthen local airlines, and attract global aviation partners. In Lagos for News Central, I am Chamun Dabeng.
You're watching the 12 report. Still ahead. 30 dead, others still missing in Indonesia landslides. We'll bring you the details of this after the break. Stay with us. South Africa has wrapped up the G20 Social Summit with a powerful message from President Cyril Ramaphosa, who urged global leaders to put people, not politics, at the center of global decision-making. The summit, which brought together civil society, labor unions, as well as academics and policy experts from across the world, focused on amplifying the voices of developing nations. News Central's correspondent Izo Efirobo reports.
After days of deliberations, dialogue, and over 100 side meetings, the G20 Social Summit closed in Johannesburg with a renewed call for global solidarity.
We affirm the historic nature not only of the first summit of the G20 to take place on African soil, but also of this social summit, a gathering of the peoples from across the world.
The president highlighted political polarization, climate change, widening inequality, and the impact of war as critical challenges that demand collective global solutions.
Your summit is taking place at a time of great uncertainty around the world. Political polarization, global poverty, conflict and war, and the growing impact of climate change are threatening global development.
Delegates praised South Africa for using its G20 presidency to push sustainable development and strengthen the role of the Global South in global decision-making.
So we commend the South African government that has made this possible so that unity in diversity is experienced here firsthand at grassroots level, as well as many of the international communities like Nigeria has come out here today and participated.
Let's keep our women and children safe. I mean, we are the future leaders of this country, the future lawmakers, the future right makers. So let's really play our part. Let's play our role in keeping the neighborhood safe. I mean, it does really take a village to raise a child.
As leaders prepare for the main G20 summit, Ramaphosa emphasized that the work of the social summit must guide the commitment of world leaders and shape a future where no nation is bullied or left behind. And so the G20 Social Summit has officially ended today with a call on the G20 leaders to prioritize inclusivity in all areas of their deliberations this weekend when they meet. The question is, will the voices of these people be heard? Only time will tell. In Johannesburg, for News Central, Israel Efirobo.
Meanwhile, leaders of the G20 will gather this weekend for high-level talks for this year's G20 summit. The summit, which is the first on the Africa continent, will host other side events by delegates as leaders find a common ground for solutions for global issues. Now, since September, Mali has been struggling with a tough fuel blockade imposed by jihadists tied to Al-Qaeda groups. Now, these militants control roads coming from Senegal and Ivory Coast, the main gateways for Mali's imports. They declared all roads around Bamako as war zones and set strict rules like separating men and women on public transport and requiring women to wear veils. The blockade has caused long queue lines in the capital and blackouts in many towns. Around 110 of 700 gas stations in Bamako are only working sporadically. Outside the capital, places like Mopti and Bandagari have had no electricity for weeks, and fuel shortages continue in towns as well.
An ye fɛɛrɛ fɛnɛ sɔrɔ a kɔnɔ sansi fɛnɛ tɛ k'a sɔrɔ groupe tɛ se ka wuli kuma dɔ la an bɛna kabini 6 heures kuran bɛna fo 18 heures yɔrɔ kɔni ka o degunba ye mɔgɔ kan dayirimɛ ɲinina n'o sirila kuran kɔni na o kɔni ye fu de sisan o gɛlɛyaba de b'an kan diɲɛnatigɛ la.
Courant peut faire 6 heures de temps. Là actuellement on a eu le courant le matin, ça s'est coupé vers 13 heures comme ça. Là on vient d'allumer le groupe, tu vois. Donc, des fois, on a une perte de 20% même. On peut faire une semaine assis comme ça. Des fois, il y a le courant qui vient seulement la nuit. On ne peut pas avoir le courant dans la journée, des fois. Même si tu...
At least 41 people have died in central Vietnam after days of relentless rainfall and flooding, with rescue teams still searching for 9 missing as of Thursday. The severe weather had submerged more than 52,000 homes and left over 500,000 households and businesses without power. Flood levels in several areas have surpassed 1.5 meters, exceeding historic peaks recorded in 1993. The worst hit locations include Oi Han and Trang and parts of the Central Highlands, where farmers are already struggling from earlier storms. Lam Dong province has declared a state of emergency after landslides cut off major roads, including the Mimosa Pass into Dalat. And still in Asia, but to Indonesia, where heavy rains targeted multiple devastating landslides, triggered multiple devastating landslides across Indonesia's Java Island last week, killing at least 30 people and leaving dozens missing. The worst hit areas include Banjarnegara and Klipap districts in central Java province. In Banjarnegara, the landslide destroyed at least 48 homes and forced around 1,000 residents to evacuate. Rescue teams, including over 700 personnel from military, police, search and rescue, as well as volunteers, are actively searching for 18 missing victims amid challenging conditions, with risks of further chaos. On the 28th of November 2025, the G20 Social Summit in Basberg, Gaitang, President Cyril Ramaphosa stood up and called gender-based violence, GBV, a national crisis in South Africa. He did it plainly in front of global delegates, especially essentially saying that the country cannot keep pretending that this is not a social or a normal social problem. Now, South Africa has been dealing with staggering numbers for years, with communities constantly reporting cases that show how deep the issue runs. I mean, the numbers are staggering. His declaration was a signal that this is now a frontline priority, not something to be handled quietly in the background. It was also a push for stronger policing, as well as tighter legal follow-through and better support systems for survivors. Now, when you contrast that with Nigeria, the vibe is similar, but the landscape is even more complicated. Nigeria is dealing with layered insecurity at the same time. Kidnappers, attackers, as well as attacks in the rural communities, as well as banditry, and not to forget insurgency, are all happening alongside gender-based violence that often go underreported. Experts constantly say that you cannot solve national security without tackling the gender-based violence woven into it. So while South Africa is publicly, elevating GBV as a standalone emergency, Nigeria is juggling multiple crises that keep spilling into each other. Nigerians are asking for better policing, faster legal processes, and community systems that actually work. Listen, at the end of the day, Both countries are dealing with violence that affects their citizens in no small way. But South Africa has called it what it is at the highest level. And that's your postscript. With that being said, let's bring in sports, shall we? The race for the 2025 Nigeria Premier Basketball League has intensifies as well. The crown for it is now being intensified as the top 4 teams emerge from the final 8 round. And Udoka Njoku has more for us. Udoka, a very good afternoon to you. What's going on? Who's your favorites in this league, by the way? And who is most likely to take the crown?
Yeah, good afternoon, Judith. Looking forward to that one. 4 teams. There's Rivers Hoopers, Boko City Chiefs, Nigeria Customs, and of course, Lagos Legends. But Rivers Hoopers look likely to claim this one because they are defending champions. But more of the conversation will go down in a short while, talking about in the game.
All right. Well, make sure to join Udoka Njoku for In the Game there at 1 p.m. Pretty much all that we can take right here on the 12 report. Now, do remember, if you see anything out there on the roads, make sure to send us your eyewitness report on the WhatsApp number now showing up on the screen. It's at News Central TV on every social media platform as well. You can always watch News Central live as well on DSTV channel 422, on Go TV channel 23. Find us on Star Times channel 274. We're also on Avo TV, and you can stream us live on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith at TV, and happy weekend.